Good morning, everyone. This is Luda Kopikina with GAI Insights. Welcome to Daily AI News Review, where we mark articles essential, important, and optional to save you time in the day and highlight the important trends that are happening in the AI landscape. You can follow along. The articles are in gaiinsights.com/articles. Please comment and give us your views because it's very important for us to know what you're thinking. And let's start with the first article, please, Ankash.
Sure, Luda. Just bringing up my screen. Okay. So the first one that we have for today comes from A16Z, and it talks about 9 emerging developer patterns for the AI era.
Yes, this is coming from a venture group that is observing it in the startups and understand and trying to put it together of what's happening. So, an interesting read. What did you think about this, Adam?
Thanks, Luda. Good morning, good evening, everyone. A16Z is deep into the space and all of the startups that are involved with AI right now. So I think they probably have a good lens into this sort of thing. At first, I was leaning towards optional because it's in many ways very forward-looking. And I think much of our audience has more immediate concerns. But I think it absolutely warrants an important. From what I understand of what's happening and some of the ways that the developer patterns, as they call them, are emerging, this is actually quite a well-done article and provides a lot of really good insight. So it's worth having the awareness of where things are going. Some of them might seem a little more obvious, like we'll have fewer dashboards and we'll have more sort of real-time LLM rendering of information as we need it. But overall, it seems to align with the sense of where I think things are going as well. Number 8 there, MCP as a universal standard is something, if people still haven't heard of MCP, it's certainly important that they pay attention to it. Even the Google A2A, agent-to-agent framework that 50 organizations developed with Google supports MCP as a standard. So I heard someone actually say recently, I thought it was brilliant. They said it's the USB-C of agents, right? And it really allows you to plug all of these tools into each other. So there's a lot of good insight from this article. It's definitely worth and important. As I said, it is very forward-looking. I wouldn't say it's essential that they make time to read it this weekend, but it's definitely one to tuck away and pay attention to.
Yeah, and the main point is look, since AI agents will be everywhere, the whole software paradigm needs to shift. And so, like, for example, documentation, the various version control. So all of that infrastructure that we've developed over the years will need to be adjusted and adapted to agents. So it's a very big trend that will be happening, and kudos to them to lay it out in such a nice manner. Amanda, what did you think?
Yeah, I could definitely get on board with important. My only comment, and I have this kind of same comment on these articles about agents, is this is great, but again, are the companies comfortable with implementing AI period at this point? To me, this just, again, is assuming that everybody's in production, everybody has a nice flow going now, and then they want to take it up a notch to build these like very intense, I don't know if intense is the right word, just take it up a notch is the easiest way to say it, and now build a flow on top of an existing process and use an agent and kind of start taking humans out. I'm hesitant on this because I think some of it's wishful thinking. Because again, I think the reality of it is this sounds good on paper. I mean, I'm even speaking to agents a little bit in a couple of weeks, so it's everywhere. It's in our face. But I still want leaders and everyone to kind of maybe take a step back and say, okay, I can read this, but am I wishful thinking, or am I literally at that place where in my organization we can start doing these things? I don't know the answer to those questions, so I would just say take some of this with a grain of salt as the leader and do a self-assessment in your organization. Are you really ready to take it up a notch if you're not even okay with your automation at this point? So that's my comment, but I could go important though.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. As Adam said, I don't think most organizations are ready for this, but this is what VCs are for. They dream up the future and they structure it because they need to do that to invest in the startups. So they're kind of giving us the what they think is going to happen. It might or might not happen this way, but they're structuring the uncertainty essentially. What did you think about this, Paul?
Yeah, very similar things. I went in optional, I left important. I think one of the roles of the AI leader is to make sure that all their colleagues in different departments are aware of the boundary of how extensive they're going here. And this is a good summary on the amazing changes going on in the software development area. So important.
Important it is. Thank you all. Important it is. Let's proceed, Ankash.
The next one comes from CIO Magazine and talks about the Gen AI at Siemens Mobility is making IT more accessible.
Yes, I rated this one as optional. The article essentially talks about a very big issue in many organizations, and I have run an IT group for an $800 million business, so mid-size. It's usually ITs are very non-visible groups, following on hardware and interactivity, things like that, fixing bugs and the like. And here it's what this is talking about is how to take an organization like that and make it more visible, making AI more visible and educating everyone of the central role that IT can play in the AI transformation. So an interesting point, but I thought it was optional for most leaders. What did you think about this, Paul?
Optional.
Adam?
Yeah, optional as well. I would have loved for them to go into more detail about how they achieved the results. It seemed to just be talk, right? And a little light for me.
Yeah. Amanda, optional? We're going for optional here?
Yeah, I agree. Optional.
Okay. Optional it is. Let's proceed, Ankash.
Okay, the next one is a research paper which talks about absolute zero, reinforced self-play reasoning with zero data.
Yeah, fascinating. A team on building on Quen, I think 2.5, and trying to not provide any human input to the system and get it to self-learn by itself. And very, very good attempt with good results. Amanda, what did you think about this?
Yeah, I think, I mean, when I dug into this thing, I feel like, and again, some say, don't say just because it's technical to take it away from the leader. But here I am saying it's a little bit technical, some of this. I don't know if it's, really worth the time of the leader to dig deep into this, especially because, like you said, it's research. But one thing to note, and you've kind of already touched on this, is about this sort of self-updating process. And one of the things mentioned in there is this like self-play with verifiable rewards and things like this, that, like you said, we don't need the human created data, things like this, that it's able to work without labeled data, that it's going to like reduce costs, bottlenecks, and supervised learning, all of these things here. And so there's a lot in here, but again, I shy away from things that start to get a little bit technical and in depth. So for me, I think this is optional for the leader.
Okay, going for optional, Adam?
I agree. This is one of those things we may look back in as little as a couple months and see that everyone from OpenAI to DeepSeek is now cranking out at a rate that we couldn't even imagine because of this breakthrough in this innovation. When they say absolute zero, what they're talking about is how much data it was given, how much data is needed to train the model, and it's getting state-of-the-art results. That's incredible. For the AI leader, what does it mean? Not much yet. So I think it's optional news, but it might be actually quite a profound piece of research in hindsight.
Yeah, so it means that at some point they can train a model for their specific needs, right? Without any specific examples. It's hard to imagine at the moment. And they are taking the base is it's a great model, right? Qwen 2.5 is a good model. But it appears that you can take that and self-train it for your specific vertical. That will be amazing. What do you think about this, Paul?
Yeah, interesting lab results, but optional for the leader here.
Okay.
Yeah, everyday miracle in the lab.
Yeah, optional it is. Let's proceed, Ankash.
Question that we have for today comes from OpenAI, and it talks about how the San Antonio Spurs use ChatGPT to scale their impact on and off the court.
Yeah, interesting things that they did with ChatGPT and creating custom GPTs across their organization. What did you think about this, Adam?
I was, again, on the fence between optional and important, and I think I'm going to weigh in as important. Enough people may not be paying attention to ChatGPT Enterprise as an enterprise solution. They think of ChatGPT as the retail product only. So it's good to bring awareness to that. I think for that alone, it might, given that it's a high-profile customer in the San Antonio Spurs, in itself might make it worthwhile. But it goes further, potentially essential, but it does get into a few different use cases. I think it could be very valuable for people who are even already considering GPT Enterprise to help get their juices flowing, to give them some ideas of really innovative ways that you can use these purpose-built GPTs. I mean, I've been building them for 2 years. Our team uses them individually through personal ChatGPT licenses, but when you can start building those and managing them within your organization, it is a really powerful solution. So I'd probably say important news. Good to be aware.
Important as a use case. Ankash, are you on ROI, the results? Could you scroll to that? That would be great. Paul, what did you think?
I'm actually on essential. I think, we just published a blog this week talking about OpenAI ChatGPT Teams, which is one of the 2 B2B versions, is our preferred recommendation now for particularly mid-sized companies where we can get $30 a month, fully secure environment to start really seeing the impact for executives here. And this is this is not a Valley company. This is an organization with using really interesting use cases here. So I think it's absolutely, and so I have essential for that. Second is I think it's novel in the sense that it's not yet another really extreme use case in sales or marketing. It's got some very fan-specific things here, just shows the applicability. And the third thing is we continue to see in the companies we work with, and this idea to have department-specific GPTs with secure company data, 5 or 6 people in marketing, 5 or 6 people in fan, 5 or 6 people, is really, really good. And this interface is so easy to use for non-technical people. For all those reasons here, I vote essential.
Yeah, and the article goes through the process they've engaged. So they're not new to machine learning, data orchestration. And so they were kind of prepared with Gen AI when ChatGPT hit. But they talk about how they involved the users and in various local geographies and how they trained in gradually folks to be comfortable with that. And they actually had a metric to measure the proficiency and confidence level, and 94% of users report greater confidence. So this is a very good overview of how they did it and how they achieved these results. So yeah, I kind of personally agree with Paul. Amanda, where are you at?
Yeah, so one of the things I like to pull it back, because yes, I agree that the use case is interesting for anybody just to see how they're using it. But I like right in the beginning of the article where there's that quote, and it basically says, I pulled it up right here, about we start with the goals, not the tolls, and then we ask what's the most human-centered, efficient way to get there. So I think that's still important for the leader to understand that, and it's a message I push consistently, is yes, we're in a digital age, we're in the world of AI, but based on budget, based on, having a human intuition behind it, do you really need to cut your entire division of, 10,000 people over generative AI overnight and spend millions of dollars on something that you don't even know if it's going to work kind of thing? Or, you know what I mean? So I like the fact that they put that right front and center before they said, this is all the things we're doing, that we vetted these things to see if it makes sense for us. And we didn't just use a fancy tool or a shiny thing or an AI to solve all of our problems. So I like that message right in the beginning. And then I like how they dug into the use cases. So I could go essential or important. I'm fine either way with what we pick.
Okay. And Adam, you can live with essential, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Luda.
Okay, great. So essential it is. Let's proceed.
Okay, the next one comes from the Wall Street Journal and talks about how AI's threat to Google just got real.
Paul, you have been saying this way back. I don't know, 6 months, 9 months, something like this. Do you want to preview this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is a trend we've talked about quite a bit here. It's moving very quickly here, and definitely, I had an important. I don't think it's particularly new, this trend, but it's definitely speeding up here. So I had an important.
I was actually on optional. Adam, where were you? Where are you on this one?
Sorry, trying to come off mute there. I was on the fence between optional and important. I think there isn't really a lot of news here, but at the same time, there may not be people who are still aware of this, and it's probably worthwhile to, maybe as Tim would say, a lower back pocket important. But it is a big piece of news when you think it's the first 2 months ever that they've seen a decline, and a significant one, and maybe it's attributed to this or not, but it's probably worth at least flagging for that.
And it's also, it's being discussed in Wall Street Journal, so this is going to the analysts. You've got the U.S. government claiming their monopoly, so they've got some headwinds on the monopoly.
Yeah. No, it's reaching the level of visibility now that I don't know who would not be knowing this, actually, if they probably had their head under the wing somehow and for all this time. Amanda, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd love to hear what Amanda has to say, because I think there's a lot of people who might not have caught wind of this.
Really?
Yet.
Okay. Amanda, what do you think?
Yeah, I feel like I'm always like the doom and gloom or something of the group anymore. So on this one, I think it's interesting to note as a trend. So I can go to important. The thing that I would say, though, is just to be candid about it. This kind of scares me, because is that many people really shifting from Google on something simple and literally opening up ChatGPT and using it as their full-on search?
Yes.
But
yes,
why are we feeling that comfortable so soon? It's amazing to me. So that's why I think I would say it's important, because this is fascinating to me. But I also think it's a little bit too trusting of the stuff that's spit out of this thing.
But Amanda, I go to Google and I get blue line links for the first 15 things when I'm looking for particular information, but it's
yeah, so Google doesn't deliver anymore. The reason people go to Perplexity and others, I do personally, because Google is just so poor in their response. It doesn't give you the breadth of what you're looking for. And the other bots do. They give you all these various angles that you might not have thought of in one little script, right? So it's absolutely, yeah. Okay, so it seems like we're arriving, and Vivek is commenting that he doesn't think that people actually understand it and might not have thought about mitigating it at all. So it's like maybe we put it as essential.
Luda, John and I were at a YPO event yesterday. There were 70 presidents, CEOs, mid-sized companies, and 90% of them have no idea this is happening. So I think, one step out of this, and some of these companies rely on this. So I think essential for that reason, and I think also Wall Street Journal, and it's such an important trend, essential.
Essential. If people are really not aware, I think we should put essential and keep pounding on it, because I think people need to prepare. There's lots of folks out there that depend on Google. And with this degradation of in 6 months from 90+% to 87 or 80, 88, whatever, it's a big drop. And it seems like it will continue to be dropping. So people need to start thinking seriously about what are we going to do? Okay, essential it is.
One quick thing, Vivek's talking about the tasks. So we've talked about how Google is a search engine. These LLMs currently are the answer engines, and they're going to quickly migrate into a task engine where you're actually given the tasks and it'll go complete it as these agents go through.
Yeah. Okay. Great discussion. Yeah. So there's lots to work on the other engines. Kevin is saying correct, and it will need to happen, but it's happening in real time here. Okay.
But, something else I saw on X today, I was just able to find it. The month-over-month traffic change for the top 10 websites. Every single one of them, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, WhatsApp, Wikipedia, Reddit, and Yahoo were all down. And ChatGPT.com was up 13%.
Here we go. Interesting. Okay.
You're on mute, Paul. You're on mute, Paul. I know.
There's only so many minutes. So if we have 400 million users using OpenAI every single week, those minutes are going over there. It's
correct.
a zero-sum game in terms of attention.
Yeah, and now with the shopping thingy that they introduced, I think more people will go there because it's a one thing, one shot, right, to find the item you're looking for if you're strapped for time, and most people are. Okay, sounds good. Essential it is. Let's proceed, Ankash.
Okay, the last one that we have for today comes from VentureBeat, and it talks about a report from AWS, which says that Gen AI has overtaken security in global tech budgets for 2025.
Interesting, right? We have two surveys in a row, one from Bain yesterday, and this one from AWS, which is bigger and I'd like to say more comprehensive. What did you think about this, Amanda?
Yeah, so I liked this one to be maybe important only because there's a bunch of different stats in there to look into that are interesting. Now, ask me my opinion on the stats themselves. That's a whole different story because I think it's scary for an article, but I think it's attention grabbing to say we want to implement all this stuff. We want to implement AI, do all these things, have all these algorithms, whatever it is, do all this stuff, right? But we don't care about security. We're going to go ahead and plummet those budgets on security and just implement it and hope for the best. That's a little scary. So the headline, I think, is an attention grabber. I hope that's not an actual reality that they're going to skimp on security. But I think it's also interesting, like when they, there's a couple different visuals and things in there. One of them, Exhibit 7, and we keep seeing this, like lack of a skilled workforce, 55% or saying this, whatever, right? But how long has this stuff been out that we're all of us as developers should know the ins and outs of this right now? I mean, yes, there's going to be a lack of skills because a lot of companies were still learning on the fly here. This isn't something that we've been trained as, I'm not a software developer, but as software developers have been trained on for the last 15, 20 years. Everybody's still on a switch. So yes, there's a lack of a skilled workforce. And then as these tools are evolving, that's right now, that's not changing. So I like some of the things that say in here that it's more about kind of like adaptability because the stuff's changing so fast that we need to look for a workforce now that's willing to learn a new tool. No longer in the past, I've worked with leaders and members of my team that they're like, oh, I don't want to learn that thing. It's going to be obsolete in a week or whatever. Yeah, but right now we need to use it to build something or to get by. So you got to learn it. Like, so, I think that's becoming more important than, I'm a Salesforce developer, I'm a this or a that, because I don't want to say Salesforce is obsolete next week, but I think you see where I'm going here. There's going to be capabilities that we got to brush up on consistently. So this lack of a skilled workforce, I get it. I get the message. But that's, to me, it's going to keep, I mean, this is going to be consistent. You got to have adaptable people in your organization. And you have to figure out how to be able to continue to upskill and train them on things, which is going to be difficult. But anyway, I say all that to say, I was kind of on the important camp on this one just because of the message itself, kind of embedded in here.
Okay, so an important proposal here, and Amanda, you talk about the skilled workforce, but there was another sort of the other side of the coin in the article talking about people using outside so vendors for implementation, and the trend is they will use much more because of the upskilling gap and the like. So this is an interesting trend as well. So all these startups, actually, you might have a hearing here. What did you think about this, Adam?
I think, Amanda, that was really well said. I was between important and essential. I think I'm landing on important as well. As you were talking, and I was even thinking about it, what I would love to see, though, is still what is there, and maybe it's in the underlying report, and I didn't have time to find it, but what is their projected spend? Because this is talking about generative AI being a priority, but they still may spend 100 times as much on security. It's not that they're not going to spend on security or that they're taking from security. It's just a question of what they're prioritizing. And it's a reflection of how important generative AI is, that is a priority over security. But that doesn't mean that they're going to actually budget more for generative AI than security, which is, I think, sort of implied in the sensationalism. And so I think that's probably why I'm leaning towards important overall to be aware of. But it's not the end all be all of, the sky's falling and securities being left behind that it sort of alludes to.
Paul, where are you on this? Important to essential?
I'll give my vote to you, Luda. You get the chalk. Take the chalk power.
You get the chalk power. So okay. So I would put it essential, guys. Here's the reason. There are lots of questions like Kevin is asking, where are chief AI officers? How long are they going to stay in there? What's happening over the next couple of years? There is data in there that actually says currently it's on the rise, that 60% of organizations actually putting chief AI officers in place, and more coming, and they intend to do that. So at the moment, this sounds like it's a trend that will continue. Which Vivek is asking, which AI skills are important and which ones are more important than others, right? So the answers, or at least an understanding of what's current or what people are thinking on a large survey base is in here. So I think it's essential to dig in if you're interested to answer some of those questions. I think it's very I think it's essential to do. Bain was smaller, much less and the response was much less convincing. So this is way bigger.
Luda, we have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. This is the last article. Ankaj, if you can prepare the scorecard, please. And in the meantime, Paul, do you have any announcements for us?
I do, yeah. Learning Lab on Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to focus on understanding OpenAI's ChatGPT Teams. So OpenAI has 2 versions for B2B. One's called Teams, one called Enterprise. And we're really bullish on Teams for executives to be able to use confidently secure company data at $30 per user. So drop in at 4 Pacific, 7 Eastern this Monday.
Okay, so today we have 3 essentials, 1 important, and 2 optionals. Actually, a regular Friday. We have more essentials on Friday. Thank you very much. Happy Friday, and thank you for all the comments. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you on Monday. Have a tremendous weekend, everyone.